Why does nobody talk about this film? Why does nobody talk about this film? Um, I just finished watching it, and a lot of my thoughts are unrehearsed, and really, I haven't really considered too much. But I kind of wanted to just get on here and just talk about it a little bit. So, Bleeder, which came out in 1999, is a feature film by director Nicholas Ren. I don't know how to say his last name, but I didn't realize up until I finished watching this movie that I'd actually watched two of his movies before and that I really liked, being Bronson, which is weirdly one of my favorite movies of all time. I think Tom Hardy gives an amazing performance in that. And Drive, uh, Ryan Gosling, starring Ryan Gosling, which is also super good. And I was just, now that I'm saying it out loud right now, I'm just really thinking about the similarities between like all three films in regards to like just masculinity and like male loneliness, etc., etc., etc. Right? But that's not even the point. I just finished watching this movie and I have a lot to say about it. First of all, I just really liked it. I just really liked it. You can see my Letterboxd review of it. I'll put the link in the description of my Letterboxd so you can see it. But it's really good, man. It's really good. Truly a hidden gem that I feel like is not talked about enough. At least I haven't heard anybody speak of it ever, really. I think Mads Mikkelsen really gives a top performance. And even, bro, I don't even know his name. I don't even know his name, but Leo in the movie gives a really good performance as well. But basically, to give, spoiler alert, but basically give you a basic summary of what the movie is about. It basically follows mainly, I'd say, two characters. It follows Lenny, who is like a super like shy, reserved, ultra nerdy film bro. You know what I mean? Played by Mads Mikkelsen. You know what I mean? Who's just this video store worker, and all he does is watch movies. He watches 4 movies a fucking day, and he just watches movies, and then that's basically all he does, and all he talks about is films. And he's also very shy, super reserved. That's kind of his character. And then it also follows Leo as well, who's a close friend of Lenny's, who is this soon to be father, alcoholic to very aggressive guy who just becomes increasingly more aggressive as time progresses. And it just shows sort of how they play out into these like personality traits that I'm trying to lay out over here, without giving away too much too soon. Basically, that's what it is. But I'm particularly interested by how like the parallels drawn between these two characters in particular, in regards to how like masculinity is portrayed. I feel like the filmmaker here does a very good job of like just like depicting these two almost opposite sides of what masculinity is in regards to like women as well, in regards to like how niggas treat women. You know what I'm saying? I think on one side you have Lenny, played by Mads Mikkelsen, which I've said a million times at this point, who's like the super shy, reserved dude who just is so emotionally detached and almost doesn't know how to talk to women. He just doesn't know how to talk to them. He's super shy. There's one scene in the movie where he's like sorting out some videos in at the store that he works at, and one of the guys he works with, I already forgot his name, he's talking to that guy, and he's like, yo bro, what movie do you want to watch today? And he's like, oh, Planet of the Apes. Oh yeah, basically no, they're talking about Planet of the Apes movies, and it's like, oh, which Planet of the Apes movies is better? He said 3, he said 2, whatever the case may be. And the guy just stopped to him at some point. He's like, yo bro, is all you ever talk about is movies? Like, you know what I mean? That's literally what he said. Is, nigga, do you talk about anything else besides movies? Like, you got anything else going on? Like, nigga, do you ever fucking talk about like anything else? You know what I mean? And he's like, nah, none of that shit interests me. None of that shit interests me. So that's the type of person he is, like super ultra film bro. But the point I'm trying to get at is that also hinders his real life communication and the relationships that he builds with people, because he's someone who lives more in this fictitious like world of like cinema and movies, and he lives a lot through movies and not in real life. You know what I mean? And it's super evident, you know, because all he can talk about is movies. He talks about movies like it's a social like currency. You know what I mean? Like his knowledge on films is the most important thing in life. You know what I mean? It's the end all be all like of his life, which I find super interesting and ironically relatable. Ironically relatable as someone who drops about like 10 film references per 1 hour conversation. I'm saying 1 hour. I don't even have too many 1 hour conversations, but as someone who frequently drops film references, his character's like so real to me. It's like so relatable, and unfortunately that's the case. I don't think that's really something to brag about. It's a little bit concerning. Obviously, that's an extreme version, but yeah, it's super evident that this guy just has no understanding of social interaction in real life when it regards to women, and it's particularly notable in one of the very first scenes that we see with him interacting with the waitress, who is like his like love interest throughout the movie. He just kind of, I think he was that the first interaction or was that the second interaction. I'll just talk about both scenes because I feel like they're both important. But there's this scene where he's across the road and he sees her waiting at a bus stop, and she's been waiting there for a while, and he just kind of walks up to the bus stop where she's at, and he just kind of stood there like behind her, you know what I mean, just kind of chilling for a bit, and he says hi. He's like, you're waiting for the bus. He's like trying to create small talk, but like he's not really saying much, you know what I mean, which ultimately pushes her to try to engage conversation. And then he just and then at some point she's just like, alright, I'm leaving now, you know what I mean, like she wasn't even gonna wait for her bus. She's like, alright, I'm leaving now. He says okay. She leaves. She turns around the corner, she gets into a park, and then like a few moments later he then catches up and he's like, oh, how are you? And he keeps repeating the same shit. He's like, oh yeah, I work at the video shop, by the way. And she's like, yeah, nigga, I know, like, nigga, I know. You know, it's so awkward, and I love it. I love it because it's like the way Mads Mikkelsen plays this character is like, it's not bombastic. It's not like evidently like, well, actually, I don't, like, you know what I mean? It's not like that. There's like a subtlety to it, which just makes it feel super real to me. I'm like, damn, that's some real shit. This nigga is just super awkward. Like I'm sure we all know a nigga like that. You know what I mean? We all know. I don't say we all know. You know what I mean? You could be watching this and you're like that. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But like, it's like, it feels like super real. And yeah, they're just trying to have this conversation, and then at some point he's like, oh yeah, I'm not even going that way. And he turns around, he turns back, and you can kind of see while he was walking back, like he's looking back a few times, trying to see, like, you can see in his head, he's trying to measure whether that was like good or not, like do well, da da da. And he's like, he's got a little pep in his step as well, you know what I mean? There's like a subtle smile as well, and I'm like, that's fucking beautiful, because he didn't fucking do shit. He didn't do fucking shit. This fucking, you know what I mean? Like, it's just weird. Like, it's just super weird, super awkward, watching those kind of scenes. But like, you can really appreciate Mads Mikkelsen as an actor in these scenes. You're like, holy shit, like, dude, you know what you're doing for real, and stuff. So that's one of the storylines. And then the other storyline is obviously his close friend Leo. I think it's Leo, who is a soon-to-be father, and he's obviously not ready to be a father. And the moment his wife tells him like they're about to have a baby, he starts to like kind of detach from the relationship. He's not really giving her much affection, you know what I mean? He works a job that pays peanuts, and he's just, you know what I mean? These guys, they watch a lot of like fucking horrid films, like very violent films as well, like regularly. They're about a friend group of 4 or 5 people that just watch these terrible films and stuff like that. So this guy, when I say like I like how they parallel these two characters, it's like the way in which masculinity is portrayed differently between the two characters is particularly interesting to me because on one hand you have Eleni, who is the soft, like very emotionally detached, emotionally unavailable, and to be honest, like emotionally stupid, like character. You know what I mean? Who just doesn't know how to talk to women, doesn't know like social cues and stuff like that. And on the flip side of that, you have Leo, who is like super like aggressive macho dude, you know what I mean, who like mistreats like his wife and stuff upon hearing that she's pregnant and stuff. Like he, similarly to Lenny, also doesn't know how to in fact cope with his emotions, because obviously he's got a lot going on in his mind. He's just not ready to be a father. He's similar to Lenny in that way, but then the difference is how he then tackles that. You know what I mean? He tackles that in a more violent like manner. He's trying to fucking, you know what I mean? He hits her at some point. He hits her twice in the film. There's one time he just like hits her in the head with his palm, and then this other time like in this very, very bleak, like disturbing scene, when he comes back home from a night out after the sister's brother had confronted him about it, and you know, he basically pulled a gun on this guy. You know what I mean? He was trying to get a fucking gun. He was trying to kill this guy. Basically pulled a gun on this guy. He gets back home. They get into a fight. Him and his wife get into a fight, and she's on the ground. He pushes her onto the ground. He just kicks her stomach a few times. It's honestly a very disturbing scene, but that's it. The build up to that, you could see it. You could see it in the way this guy, like you could see it in his eyes. You could see him get like agitated, like at times. You could see there's like a beautiful scene where, they're watching a movie like they always do, and this guy's like, oh, these guys always conveniently have guns. He's talking about the people in the film. He's like, oh, these guys always can conveniently like pull a gun whenever they want. They just want to, you know, they just all know how to shoot a gun, basically, yada yada. And he's just rambling, and people are trying to watch this movie, obviously, and he's just caught up in like the guns and how people can just pull out the guns. And then he turns to the other friend, his wife's brother, who's like the more financially stable of all of them. He's like, yo, bro, can you get me a gun? He's a bouncer. Like, yo, bro, come on, give me a gun. Like, you know, you could see like he's like, you know what I mean? He's almost salivating at the idea of having a gun. And at some point he obviously does then get a gun, which he uses to threaten that very same guy in the movie. And it's like very, very aggressive, but like the build up to that is like, bro, like you could see it, like at certain points in certain scenes, he's like, you know what I mean, he's almost biting his teeth a little bit, you know what I mean? And I like in particular, when we're talking about Leo, I like in particular a scene where his wife basically goes to a laundromat, finds another like finds a mother there with like her 2 children. He invites her back. She invites her over back to her house, and they're just doing like mom shit, you know what I mean? Being like, oh, I'm also buying them these like cute little like clothes or whatever and stuff like that. And he gets back home to find them there, and you could see as he's like pacing around his own household, and he's seeing like this little kid like in his room. You could see like the way he's looking at her. At her kid, like there's like a disgust there. And then his wife, you know, takes her friend's child and is like, yo, you should try hold him, like practice, you know. And he's just kind of holding the baby, like, you know what I mean, like it's an object, like there's no real like affection to it. So I feel like that was very beautifully played by the actor. I'm just forgetting his name. I'm super sorry, but like, yeah, I just like that in particular. And I do think that the film overall, what it does best for me, in my opinion, is how, you know, cinema is portrayed as like an escape, but not in a necessarily good way either. You know what I mean? I feel like anytime like I've watched, I don't know, like a Viva Sa Vie is one of my favorite movies of like all time, right? Which is a Jean-Luc Godard film and stuff like that. Even some Tarantino films, like maybe Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Cinema is typically portrayed as an escape, but also as a good thing. You know what I mean? That's also like a good thing in like a lot of these movies. It's like you've had a bad day, or you're trying to wind down, or you just need to feel good about yourself. go watch a movie and stuff like that. But here, in the case of Lenny, it's portrayed in an extreme way where it's escapism, but it also limits you in many other aspects. You know what I mean? It's like you're kind of now avoiding real life experiences. And it's like, nigga, I would imagine this nigga Lenny in 2026 will be like logging in 10 movies on Letterboxd a day, and it's like in every fucking Reddit fucking, you know what I mean, every fucking Reddit fucking page, like type and shit. Like he would literally be like a keyboard warrior, you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like the movie in that sense becomes a little bit ahead of its time as well, because you have like extreme versions of like a Lenny in 2026, you know what I mean? You have these like ultra crazy like film bros who just don't fucking go outside, you know what I mean? But yeah, like it's super good. It's super good. I fuck with it a lot, and for the most part, I'm just rambling. I really had no like structural plan to how I wanted to say this, but like it's super good. It's super good. It's like, I don't know. It feels like a, you know, male loneliness, yada yada yada. Like it feels kinda Taxi Driver-esque in a way, Joker-esque, if you want, Fight Club-esque in that regard, but it doesn't really glorify the lonely guy, you know what I mean? It doesn't really glorify the protagonist in this case, you know what I mean? I'm talking particularly about Lenny, you know what I mean? In a Fight Club, like you fuck with Brad Pitt, you fuck with Edward Norton, you know what I mean? Even in Taxi Driver, like a lot of dudes fuck with like De Niro in Taxi Driver. He's like, oh man, so real, you know what I mean? But like with Mikkelsen, Mads Mikkelsen's character is like so real, but like it's also like eye-opening in the sense that you don't want to be Lenny, you know what I mean? As much as you might find him relatable, I mean, don't get me wrong, you probably don't even want to be Travis Bickle as well, but like you're probably more likely to want to be Travis Bickle than you want to be Lenny, because Lenny is a bum, you know what I mean? He avoids confrontation, all this stuff. Like he's just scared of violence. He just won't, like he's just a nobody. He stands for ultimately nothing. All he has is his movies, and that's about it. You know what I mean? You don't want to be Lenny. That's why this film becomes like super different to me. When you try to compare it to like the other films that I've just mentioned, it's like even in Drive, like the lonely guy. You know, I was talking about Drive, which was directed by the same guy. It's like, even in Drive, you kind of want to be Ryan Gosling, right? Of course you want to be Ryan Gosling, but in this movie you don't want to be Lenny. You know, you just don't want to be Lenny. But hey, he's just like me for real. He's just like me for real. And if you're watching this, he's probably just like you for real. And it's a great movie. If you haven't watched it, I've spoiled it enough for you, but you should still watch it. It's very good. It's shot very well. The score is very good. I like this like handheld camera style throughout the entirety of the film. I like like close-ups. You know, there's these like nice little close-ups, very close shots. Like when characters like having conversations, the camera's almost damn near like right in their fucking face, like this close. You know what I mean? Which I really like. It's obviously a Danish film, which is probably why it's not super popular. Because niggas don't give a fuck about European films. Why is that? I don't know. But it's a gem. It's a gem. You should watch it. And to be honest, at this point, that's all I had to say. So, thanks for watching. Subscribe. Hey, follow the Letterboxd. I'm gonna link the Letterboxd in the description. But yeah, WApps.